We're trying to get more basic medical stuff.
Yeah.
I think one of the areas that optometrists complain about that they don't have enough interaction with primary care physicians, but I suspect they don't also speak the same language. So as soon as they can get the same lingo going, that would make it much easier.
Well, and that's your theme this year, right? Talking about how optometry can interact with, or the eyes work with systemic disease. And then, of course, with systemic disease comes a whole host of other specialists along with that.
Part of the problem is that most medical schools don't have an optometry department or an optometry school there. There are a couple of the osteopathic schools. Osteopathic medicine now has, so they'll be a little more sophisticated. But when you went to medical school, did you ever bump into an optometrist?
In the ophthalmology department. So Michigan had an entire staff.
In ophthalmology, so we had when you did the ophthalmology rotation, which was
that's the only time. Yeah, that's the only time you'd ever run into them. It was very brief. So because people who went into ophthalmology knew they were going into ophthalmology, and the rest of us were like, that building was too far away. It was.
So that's
away
that
from
how
the
you
main
decide
hospital.
your specialty? The ophthalmology building, too far of a walk. Forget it, man.
So ophthalmology is an elective, right? I mean, most people do. You don't do much of it at all. You know, the eye is just something to see if something's grossly broken with it. Right.
So if it's hanging by a thread or you're gushing blood,
your pupil reflexes, like things like that, like anything, your eye is a window into systemic disease. Other than that, you just kind of, if you see something crazy looking when you're looking in the eye, you just send it straight out.
Hunt.
It goes away.
So you'd had a choice not to participate.
Yeah, you'd have an ophthalmologist come in and tell you like the 5 deadly red eyes. This is what you need to know, and if you see anything that looks remotely like this, send it over there.
Right.
And that was it.
So it was more fun to go to the weight control clinic.
Oh, that was much more fun. You know, I mean, the electives that you could take, you know, ophthalmology was not a great elective to take because if you weren't going into it, watching the surgery, who cares, right? I mean, you get to go, you get to scrub in and look and see stuff, but.
So you opted out of the ophthalmology elective, and look what you're doing now.
Let me just tell you, yeah. So, but you know, when you do something like general surgery, it's actually fun to be part of it because you're retracting stuff, you're stitching stuff, you're getting to do stuff. Ophthalmology, you know how it is. It's lasers, and it's tiny.
Yeah, it's through a microscope.
And you're not really doing anything. You're standing there, you're watching TV. And so, no, seriously. I mean, that's what it is. Yeah, you were at Alcon, you saw it. You're literally watching TV. Whereas with the other surgical specialties, most of them where things are large and in your face, you're much more active. You're much more part of the process. So, yeah.
So because the eye is so small, people feel like they're watching TV.
Yeah. It's not,
and you don't really feel that engagement as if you can dig into an abdomen or you're cutting off somebody's foot.
So the takeaway is that optometry and medicine don't really interact by and large.
No.
So it's
or even ophthalmology.
Or even ophthalmology for that matter. Yeah. These are the people in the ER that you call in. You call in the specialist to see something if there's an emergency going on. But yeah.
Right. So we hope to change that.
Well, right? Yeah. I mean, I think the most important thing, and this is a problem that we're not going to solve and no one will, is the scope issue. As long as each state has their own scope of practice, this problem will never go away because you can't reliably say that an optometrist knows X. Like with medicine,
actually you can, because that's what national boards are for, and that's why, I mean, everyone gets, I mean, you have training, and depending upon where so if you learn things in school, and then you go to a certain state, you may or may not have the privilege to practice to your fullest extent of your training.
But then what happens is you lose all of it.
Okay, I will give you that point,
so
but
optometrists
are taught.
They're taught, but you forget everything. So I can't rely on the fact that someone in like Massachusetts, let's say, where the scope is restricted, that they know as much as someone in say,
the
southern states, right, like or Oklahoma or whatever, they're using lasers. You just don't know, and it's different all over the country. So because there's no consistency, it's very difficult to know how much people, and forget about grandfathering people, right? I mean, this is a totally different thing. Like,
yeah, exactly.
Like, there are people who didn't even do oral medications, right? Up until
absolutely, but it wasn't really grandfathered. You had to take a course,
right,
and pass an exam, but
it wasn't mandatory. So you could have people out there who
absolutely,
yeah.
As a matter of fact, one of the most famous people, he's dead now, in contact lenses. Never had either a diagnostic or a a therapeutic license to practice in New York.
And who was that?
Either one. I'm not going to name names, but
Well, you
names,
just
he's
you
dead.
just said that he's one of the most famous.
he was on the faculty of SUNY.
Okay, well,
So.
But that was also when that was the time in which he practiced.
No, he could have.
Oh no, okay. Did I
No.
misunderstood?
He practiced into the 90s.
And so he chose not to
He chose
pursue.
not to pursue. That was the one mistake. The second mistake, he was a chain smoker. And he stank of tobacco, and his fingers always had nicotine on them.
And he was a contact lens specialist?
Yeah, and contact lenses.
Oh,
and,
that's kind of not great.
He died in his early 70s, so he wasn't around that long.